This is the Promisingpreneur podcast. I am Aahliyah Amerat, and today's episode is a little bit different. Over the past 5 months, I've been keeping a massive secret from you. Some scary, some really exciting. Well, right now, I just gotta let it out. But before that, I need to tell you a story. At the beginning of the year, I was going through a massive amount of stress. I was trying to work out whether I was going to start a family, if I was going to do the Promisingpreneur podcast, or if I was going to start a tech-based business, which I knew nothing about. You should know me by now. If you've been watching the Promisingpreneur podcast, you know that I'm a massive go-getter. So I decided to do everything, absolutely everything, including starting that family. Oh, that was a lot. Revealing the pregnancy was honestly a lot for me. And even just the whole bloody day, putting on a pair of heels, forget it, absolutely forget it. Over the past 5 months, I want to tell you a bit about what's actually been happening, the reality of it. Last week in our team episode, you heard that I was ready to quit. I was ready to stop the Promisingpreneur podcast. You've probably seen a little bit of a deteriorate. I can't even speak. I'm gonna blame that on the baby. Deterioration in my ability to show up, right? Like, I felt ultra guilty over the past 5 months dealing with not showing up consistently on social media, not showing up consistently for my team. And then also I stopped. Everything stopped. And that was one thing that I didn't anticipate, right? I didn't anticipate stopping, I didn't anticipate stopping anything when it came to becoming pregnant. So at the beginning of the year, as I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, and there's quite a few Instagram posts and a couple of reels that I actually done at the beginning of the year with all of the things that was kind of going on in my head. And it was like all of the chitter chatter that was going on. Start a family, you're gonna be too old. You're not necessarily gonna be too old, but you want children a little bit young. You wanna be able to be like active when they get to 10, 15 years old. So make sure you have them now. If you start the business now, you're gonna have to stop for the next 5 years at bare minimum because you want to be a present mother. Like all of these things, all of these pressures, all of these feelings was coming up so much for me at the beginning of the year. And honestly, it put me down. Like it put me down to the point of, I was really depressed at one point. I was just over worrying, over anxious, over anxiety with absolutely everything. And I mean, some people that I spoke about this to would say, like, chill, you've got a lot of time. And then, I mean, there's a massive cultural issue with having a baby before marriage and things like that. So that was another kind of pressure on me. I thought to myself, if I do decide to go ahead and have a child before wedlock, I'm going to affect my family, right? And the feeling of affecting my family and the potential of them leaving, and they wouldn't. However, the thought process was always still there. The thought process of, are they going to be disappointed in me? I'm not doing it the traditional way, with a whole nother part of my brain going, yeah, but it's my life at the end of the day. If I do start this business, I'm not going to want to end up being pregnant. I'm not going to end up having a family at this point in time whilst I'm building a business, because building a tech-based business requires me to go off and get massive amounts of funding. And I'll be honest with you, me taking on £500,000 in funding from whoever I decide to go with, some kind of venture capitalist, and then halfway through just saying, oh, well, I'm going to take a couple of years out because I want to be a present mother. I mean, the middle-aged white man at the top ain't gonna turn around and be like, okay, no problem, have your 2 years, have your 3 years, or however long you need. They're not going to be okay with that. So all of these things was going through my head, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that thinks about them. If you're an ambitious woman, there's a lot that you have to consider. There's a lot that you have to think about. So I thought, I'm gonna do what I need to do for me and my partner to start having a baby, start building a family. I'm gonna build the podcast. And the reason why I'm gonna build the podcast is because regardless what happens, I would have been at least, like, by the time I fall pregnant, it'll probably be by the end of the year, so then it'll give me a good year and a bit. By that time, every single week, putting up a podcast, surely I should build up a buzz by then. Surely I should have like a decent sponsorship maybe that can bring in me some kind of passive income on the side. These are all the things that I was planning, right? Building some passive income on the side with the Promisingpreneur podcast. Okay, great. Aside from that, I'm gonna go and learn everything I need to learn about tech. I'm gonna keep traveling as much as I can travel. I'm gonna go to New York, I'm gonna go to Miami, I'm gonna go to hackathons, I'm gonna go to every single what are they called? Every single seminar, whatever. And then, April, what am I talking about? August 2020, I came back from New York. I was doing a full-time, like a Center for Entrepreneurs was doing a founders program that a lot of you have probably seen on like my socials and stuff. I was doing the founders program, and it started off by trying to get up in the morning, not happening. And bear in mind, I'm at home 24/7 in terms of I'm like, if I'm not traveling, I'm in my house, I'm plotting away, I'm either doing the podcast or I'm doing something for CREATALAND or I'm just doing something, right? I decided to come back from New York and like go full force with the Promisingpreneur, which was happening. Like we had this momentum going. We like, one of our reels nearly went viral. Like it was brilliant. And then come mid-August, I'm trying to wake up in the morning, trying to go to one of my sessions for the NEF program, and I couldn't wake up. And I was thinking to myself, what? Why have I not woken up? Why am I so tired? And I just thought, why am I so tired? And I just thought, maybe it's just jet lag. However, I came back from New York probably about 3 weeks prior, so jet lag's probably gone now. And then left it. I had a meeting with my team on a Tuesday evening. And I remember at that meeting turning around and saying to them at the end, boy, in the next 2 weeks, I might turn around and tell you, look, that I'm pregnant. And God only knew that I was already pregnant at the time. Like, I couldn't believe it. However, the maddest part about all of it is that I found out 2 days after I made that comment. I'll be as raw and real as possible, right? My breasts started hurting. They got way, way bigger than humanly possible. And I was like, what the is going on? Why is it feeling like this? What is happening? What are all of these, like, my stomach just feels like it's turning all the time. I always needed to sleep with a pillow in between my legs, otherwise it just wasn't comfortable. And I thought to myself, no, this is all a little bit weird. And then I was going to a mentoring meeting with one of my coaches from the NEF program. And like an idiot, like, I don't know why I done this, but 10 minutes before I needed to leave the house, I decided to go and do a pregnancy test. Why would you do that, Aahliyah? Like, why would you do that? I went and done the pregnancy test and it was positive. And in my head I thought, no. I cried. Not because I didn't want the baby, because technically I was planning it, but because it was like everything was at the peak. I came back from winning 2 hackathons. The Promisingpreneur was like really getting somewhere in terms of the momentum was building up and picking up. I was ready to start a new marketing campaign for the Promisingpreneur. I was ready, like my Centre for Entrepreneurs NEF program was in the right in the middle, and I just thought, fuck, now what? So I cried, and that's just the facts of it. I mean, 2 minutes later, I was like, I'm so happy. Like, I'm actually happy because I've wanted this since I was, God knows, I've wanted this since I was probably about 18, 19 years old. Nearly 10 odd years later, it's happening. There was always a part of me that felt like, oh, maybe there might be something wrong with me, why I haven't fallen pregnant yet, or all of those kinds of thoughts came into mind, like back in the days, and over the years. So yeah, found out. I was ecstatic. I told my partner, and I told him in a really cute way. Like, I'll be honest, it was real cute. Might put a little snippet in. I might put a little snippet of it. Yeah, we're gonna do that. We'll put a little snippet of his reaction. He was so happy. And yeah, couple weeks in, I was still doing little bits, but I'll be honest with you, it was like a switch. It was like a literal switch that just went off. Every single symptom you can think of decided to just take over, to the point where I ghosted my team. I stopped responding to all of the messages. We had episodes coming out. We had potential new guests coming on board. I just stopped responding. Felicia's called my phone and she's gone, "You're pregnant." And I was like, sorry, how do you even know that? And she was just like, because you're just silent. And I'm not the silent type, right? Like, I've got ideas galore. I'll be up 24 hours. I'll be awake at 4 o'clock in the morning doing something regarding one of the businesses, and I'll message into the group and be like, oh my God, I've got this brilliant idea. We should do this. Like, I'm that type of person. So for me to not do that at all for a good 8 to 10 days, she was like, no, I know, I could just feel it. And I was like, yep, I am. So she was one of the first people that even ended up finding out, just because she has this sixth sense. And then, yeah, I'll be honest, it was scary. It was a scary moment, no matter how much I wanted it, no matter how much I want to have a family, no matter how much I planned it. What I didn't plan for, and what I was completely unaware of, was how exhausting the first 3 months would be. The first 3-4 months, yeah. So first, say 17 weeks. First 17 weeks, I was completely out for the count. I stopped everything. All the podcast episodes that had come out in that time period, you can see the deterioration within my face, within my energy, within everything about me. So me and Dwayne was sitting down the other day, looking going over all of our episodes, and I just thought, this is a mess. Like, how are they even up? Like, sickly. However, at the end of the day, it shows the progress, it shows the journey, it shows. And this is only what I'm coming to terms with now, right? At the time, I was down about it. I was upset about it. I was feeling like a bit of a failure based on the fact that it's not the way that I wanted it to be, right? I also just wasn't aware of the toll that pregnancy, or the first 3-4 months, was gonna actually have on me. So in regards to doing CREATALAND and like progressing forward, and where I could have been 5 months down the line, is wildly different to where I actually am. And after, say, my 18th, 19th week, like after 17 weeks, I was like, okay, not feeling as sick anymore, not feeling as down and depressed anymore. Now I'm gonna get back into it. Then it took me like 2.5 weeks, nearly 3 weeks, to actually get back into it. Because it was like, I'd been out of the count for 3 months, 4 months. and then automatically just go back into it and start with this momentum again. And it just doesn't work like that, right? When you've been kind of drained for so long, to then get back onto the bandwagon instantly is near enough impossible. You have to ease yourself back into it. There were certain days that I just felt really tired, or there were certain days that I felt really low and I started doubting myself. Can I get back into this? Is it gonna work? Things are gonna have to change now that I'm gonna be a mother. What's gonna happen on maternity? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So, 20 weeks in, I'm now 22 weeks in, thank God. Alhamdulillah, I am in the honeymoon period of pregnancy, as they say, the second trimester, leading up to the third trimester. So I'm getting a little bit bigger. I'm much more at ease. I'm not as worried, I'm not as anxious. And I've also come up with a new plan, right? And there's quite a few things that have to obviously change. My commitment to the Promisingpreneur podcast is level 1 million. However, whether it's actually going to be exactly the same over the next year or so, I can't tell you that, not right now anyway. Over the next couple of weeks, me and the team are going to sit down and try to work out exactly how we are going to stay consistent and what that actually looks like, right? Because the reality is, a few things have to change. I'm going to have to move, well, I'm not going to have to, but I am looking to move apartments, to go into a house. So that, in terms of my premises where I film, my studio location, for me to be able to get to the studio location, that's not going to be as easy anymore. So that might have to change. So my backdrop has to change, so that everything, there's just a lot, right?
If you're enjoying this podcast so far, this is only going to annoy you if you're a hater. Click subscribe, click follow, and drop a quick comment. And if you've done all of those already, then send me a 5-star review, because honestly, it's the only way we survive on the internet. Thank you.
But I don't know what the future holds at this point in time. All I do know is, regardless in what capacity, the Promisingpreneur will never stop. And regardless in what capacity, I will never stop working, right? Like, I would never stop. The reason why I won't stop, I'll tell you this, is because I'm a massively ambitious person. And the 3-4 months that I did stop working and I did kind of allow my body to go through whatever I was going through, I felt ridiculously depressed. I was upset with myself. I was frustrated with myself. I felt guilty for everyone turning around saying to me, well, everyone that knew at the time, just rest. This is the time that your body needs to kind of grow a new human. It's the most kind of important time. And there's all these kind of restrictions that you now have with being pregnant, with the things that you eat, the things that you do, etc., etc. And there was a part of me that just felt like everything was changing, and all too sudden, right? Every single thing was changing, and I didn't expect for it to change in the first 3 months. I expected it to change maybe in the last 5 months, right? So in my mind, everything was going to be okay. And this is the reason why I really wanted to do this podcast, is being true to the fact that women have to be extremely, extremely vigilant of when they fall pregnant, because some people don't have a plain sailing first few months. Your first few months may include going to the hospital in and out because you're continuously vomiting. It may consist of you being so exhausted you can't get up in the morning. You going to make a cup of tea is exhausting, and honestly, like, making a cup of tea doesn't take 5 seconds, right? So, like, I remember even trying to go through my podcast and kind of take down timestamps for marketing and like create social media stuff, and I couldn't even watch the full podcast without falling asleep. And honestly, my episodes are not that long, and they are very interesting. So, like, it just didn't make any sense. But yeah, you don't know how you're going to react, right? And one thing that I remember saying to Felicia before we even started this podcast is, I've always been that type of person to mitigate any issues, right? And mitigating issues essentially for me is knowing what's possible, what possibly can go wrong and what possibly can go right, and finding a plan based on every single scenario. Because whatever happens, there's a backup. You can always do something. Like doing a little bit that makes a big difference, right? And I've always stuck by that. Always mitigate your issues by knowing exactly what's to come, right? Now, you can't know everything. However, you can do enough research to find out all the possibilities. So yeah, that is one of my biggest kind of takeaways of being pregnant, being self-employed, being a female that's extremely ambitious, right? So I even decided to come up with a new podcast called Pregnant But Ambitious. And then I thought to myself, am I gonna commit to a whole nother podcast? I'm not too sure about. Am I gonna maybe commit to say 3 episodes a month, or maybe like in little dribs and drabs where I speak to other pregnant but ambitious women, or I speak to other mothers and I speak to other fathers, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of fathers that are massively ambitious that are also still very present in their children's lives, but still have to be extremely focused in business, i.e. my partner, and what that's like. Or what's it like on a male's perspective when they are watching their woman go through all of the motions with pregnancy? Like, how does that take a toll on him? How does it take a toll on the relationship? So that's not necessarily the Promisingpreneur. However, it's still business. It's still navigating a business and navigating a family and building a family. And I think that's a really, really important topic. So over the next few weeks, that's going to come out. And that's a really exciting kind of thing for me to be able to do, and kind of give myself a bit more focus, because it's definitely overwhelming to know that everything in your life is changing rapidly and you have no control over it. And being an ambitious woman, that is probably my biggest fear. It's something that I'm still navigating through. It's something I'm a little bit better with in terms of just understanding my body, understanding myself. But what I'm really excited for is doing a few seasons, should I say, of Pregnant But Ambitious with other ambitious women and men. And also, the very last thing that I've decided to do during my maternity, instead of going into tech the way that I was going into tech, I'm still very much a part building CREATALAND, but I'll be doing that in the background and I won't be talking much about that. But what I will be doing, just as a bit of a side income, is starting a candle business. And should I say, I've started a candle business specifically for pregnant but ambitious women and men, mothers and fathers that are navigating life, that's navigating business, that's navigating building on every single front, right? Which is myself, which is my partner, which is so many people around me. I'm building a candle business for us. It's something that will allow us to intentionally find peace, right? And it's called Ambitious Peace. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit more about it whilst I make a couple. So why don't you join me? So here we are, we're in my kitchen. That's where all brilliant businesses are made. No, not really. We are launching Ambitious Peace on Friday. Black Friday at 12 p.m. to 12 in the afternoon. I'm going to launch the website, which is going to be a Shopify website, and I need every single person to make sure they go online and pre-order. I'm going to be putting up all of the links, all of the good stuff. Make sure you're following all of the social medias, because I'm not necessarily going to show you all of the candle journey, but I will create content just based on the journey of building the business and building an e-commerce brand. Yeah, I'm really excited. But what Ambitious Piece is so much more than just candles. It's so much more than just luxury handmade candles that looks aesthetically pleasing in your house. It's also completely natural. Everything I use is bought from all of the best UK mainland suppliers. I don't go outside. I make sure everything is vegan, sustainable, down to my packaging. Everything I'm doing is top tier and luxury.
Like many new parents, we have to navigate pregnancy and being CEOs. As highly ambitious people, we need to find the balance between unexplainable hormones, building businesses, and the pressures of the unknown. We are determined to provide the life that we didn't have as children, so it's so important for us to balance our own peace of mind during this process. This candle company is a way for me to balance my emotions and soothe my partners in the process. By providing aromatic scents, promoting deep relaxation or high energy, whatever's needed at whatever time, all the whilst looking hella cute in our homes. I'm making these candles with the ambitious mothers and fathers in mind, with proven benefits that are safe during pregnancy and beyond. Thank you so much for taking the time to understand how much this really means to us. You was just listening to the Promisingpreneur podcast. I am Aahliyah Amerat, and thank you so much for listening all the way through. Don't forget to click subscribe and share to at least one person, because that's the only thing that's going to fuel us to carry on.